Hello, everyone, and welcome to our MyTech High live video webinar with Christian Schauf, who is the CEO and founder of Uncharted Supply Company right here in Utah. He's actually located up in Park City. I had the opportunity to meet with Christian last week and really love what they're doing. Christian, we so appreciate your time and joining us today on this webinar. We have some wonderful families who have joined us. This will also be again recorded that we can share with other families, and we'd like to just kick it off to you and walk us through and tell us a little bit about you and your story, and I'm sure there'll be some questions at the end. So Christian.
Cool. Well, thanks, Derek, and hello, everybody. When Derek asked me to do this, I thought the best thing to do would be to pull up a presentation I gave at my college at the University of Wisconsin. So it was kind of designed for college level classes and entrepreneurship. But if you guys have any questions along the way or don't understand anything, just let me know. I'll try to make this pretty simple. I'm not the smartest guy, so it's simple by nature. So, all right, so we'll just dive into it. I think what I'd like to talk about is a little bit about who I am, and then, you know, Uncharted isn't my first company. I've done a few others. So I wanted to show you guys kind of what I've done. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to show you guys like the thinking behind that, because that's what really led me to Uncharted and then got us on Shark Tank and all that. And then 5 of my favorite takeaways and life lessons from some of my favorite mentors. I think mentors are an important part of your life, and I've had some good ones. So I'll dive right in. For you guys, I don't know if I'm seeing all ages on the video screens, but for me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I've gotten this question. I had gotten this question for years, and the reality is I still don't know what I want to do. My grandpa, who's 88 years old, often tells me he doesn't know what he wants to do with his life when he grows up. So I think it's a funny question because life is long and there's a lot of options, and I think you should try a lot of things. I've always been amazed by people who at 14 years old decided they wanted to be a doctor, and that's what they did. I think that's great, but that wasn't the path I took. So if you're out there and you know exactly what you want to do, awesome. If you don't worry. I was just like you guys. This is what my last probably 12, 13 years looked like. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but just to show you, it's a little bit crazy. I was a web designer, then I was a musician for 8 years, then I worked for an ad agency, and then I was a web manager for a company, and then I started a cider company. For the last 12 years, I've been a Department of Defense contractor. You know, I've done some documentaries. I've been the vice president of marketing for a company, and then I started Uncharted Supply. So I will skip through some of these, but I just wanted to show you guys that's pretty scattered. Before I get into the products I've done a lot of events. So one of the things we do is we send entertainment over to the troops in the Middle East. I've been to Iraq 39 times myself. And that started as my band going over to play. Here we're getting an award for Armed Forces Entertainers of the Year. The guy on the right is General Ed Schauf from the Pentagon. So that was a pretty special moment for us. But I spent my 30th birthday party in Saddam Hussein's bedroom. So we've been right in the thick of things. We've had bombs knock us over and sniper fire. But we really went and did some really fun things in the Middle East for the troops. I've done work for Harley Davidson. This is one of the projects where we actually turned the wall of the Harley Davidson Museum into a live Twitter feed. So as people posted pictures and tweets, we were able to broadcast them up there around their 110th anniversary. This was singing the national anthem at a NASCAR race. Like I said, I was a musician for a long time. This is probably one of the more adrenaline-inducing events of my life. 175,000 people were at the track that day, and it was live on ESPN. So not even counting the fireworks shooting off right underneath you, it was a crazy day. You know, back to playing shows for the troops. This was in Sadr City, actually. It was one of the more dangerous places in Iraq, going out with some of those guys. I got a chance to record with Prince. That was his logo. Been on the cover of some magazines. This is one of the tours we do in Iraq called Bikes Over Baghdad, where we build skate parks at military bases and then do shows for these guys. And then we leave the ramps and the bikes there so the troops have something to do after we've gone. This is out on Richard Branson's boat. I don't know how many of you guys know who Richard Branson is. He's the guy in kind of the pink purple shirt there on the right. That day started fun and then ended with me flying off the side of the boat when the wind caught the sail and almost dying. But I survived, and then Richard wrote a blog post about me about not going overboard. So so my path has been a little bit like this, right? It's not a linear progression. I would just tell anybody watching, don't be afraid to try things. And if things are interesting and fun, go after them, because I think there's always lessons in everything you do, and you never know where going down one path is going to connect you to something else, and it's going to take you where you want to go. So I've got a few product examples. I'm going to skip through a couple of them here. That was a cider company I worked for. I don't know if it's super relevant, but here's an interesting one. Before I started Uncharted Supply, I worked for a company called Pear Sports. And I don't know how many of you guys out there have ever used a fitness tracker, like a Fitbit, or have counted steps on your phone, or a Garmin. I mean, I'm wearing a Garmin watch right now that has everything from my steps to my heart rate while I'm sleeping, and everything built in. The interesting thing that was happening 3 or 4 years ago when I started this was that we had learned how to track data, but we didn't know what to do with the data. And the problem that was happening is there were millions of people tracking their steps every day, but nobody was losing weight. I mean, we would see studies where we would talk to 1,000 people that had Fitbits, and they'd say, yeah, I get my 10,000 steps every day. And it's like, how many of you have lost weight? And literally zero had. So there's a disconnect there. So what we did is we did a little deep dive, and what we realized was these devices were very addicting. It's almost like playing a video game. People wanted a high score, and that's why they like getting the steps. But it had zero effect on your fitness over time. So what we did is we created a system. You'll see in this picture, the girl has headphones plugged into her smartphone, and then she has a heart rate monitor on. And we started working with a small team in Orange County, California. And where the idea really came from was Lance Armstrong's team. I don't know how many of you guys know who Lance Armstrong is, a famous cyclist. He's had some controversy in his life, but he was one of the best. And his team came to our founder at the time and said, we want to find a way that we can talk to Lance and coach him all the time. So he doesn't have to look at numbers on his screen on his computer and do math. He can just worry about performing. And then we can tell him if he's in the right heart rate zone, or if he's pushing out enough power, if he needs to recover, and talk to him. And we thought, man, that's pretty cool to have a coach right in your head doing all the hard work for you as far as looking at all the numbers, and then simply telling you, go faster, go slower, take a deep breath, drink some water. And so we thought, awesome, the Lance can have that, but what if we could build a system for everybody? And that's where Pear Sports came from. So we built an app, and basically the app would track all this data and then coach you based on what your body was doing and what your goals were. It's pretty interesting. Now, today, you guys may be seeing more and more of this. Oakley, Intel, Under Armour, everybody's investing heavily in this space. But we were one of the first, and it was a really fun experience to see how people think and how they react to data. This is a video I'm going to skip over. Again, I'm going to go fast because I want to get to Shark Tank. I think that's where you guys are excited. So I skipped a few examples, but where I'm at right now today is personal preparedness. And I've started a company called Uncharted Supply. And the idea came simply when I was living in Los Angeles. So I know you guys are all generally from Utah, but if you can see this picture of traffic, this is a busier day on the 405, but this isn't actually that uncommon. And this is not a storm. This is not an earthquake. This is just people going home from work on a Friday night. It's crazy. You can imagine if you had an emergency, let's just say you have to go to the bathroom in the middle of all that. Like, how you're stuck, right? There's no way out. So I was driving home from work one day and it started to rain, and traffic just stopped like this. And I looked at my friend who's in the car and I said, is there an accident up ahead, or what's going on? She said, no. She's like, we're in California. Nobody knows how to drive in the rain. And it wasn't even really a heavy rain. Like, my wipers hadn't even turned on my car yet. So I thought, well, that's weird. If people can't drive in the rain, what happens if there's an earthquake, or what happens if there's a wreck? How do people survive? And that's what started my thinking around Uncharted. So what I found was terrorism, climate change, overpopulation, political issues, all these things were going up and up and up and up. And at the same time, life skills were going down, and people didn't have tools and equipment. Now, I know everybody on here is is from Utah. You guys probably have a yard and you have a garage and you've got some tools and your parents might have some stuff. But in heavily populated cities like Los Angeles or New York, people live in apartments. They don't have garages and they don't have chainsaws or shovels or anything. So when something happens, they literally have nothing to help them get through these situations. And for me, that was a big kind of aha moment. So I started researching, well, gosh, what do people need in these situations that they can put in their house and they can have on hand and it's ready to go? And the reality is, like this picture, this is about the best one that was on the market at the time. And pardon my French, but this sucks. Like, nobody wants to buy that. It looks really old. It's not inspiring. And for a lot of people, if they have all this in their backpack, a lot of the stuff they don't even know how to use. People have never used a water filter before. Maybe the batteries are dead. If you break an arm, is there any instructions in there on what to do if you broke your arm or if you have a big cut? And it was uninspired. It also doesn't really have much of a brand around it. I think if I ask all you guys what your favorite brand is, you might say Nike or Under Armour or the North Face or Oakley or things like that. Those are brands that when you get into them, you realize there's quality there and you buy into what the brand is all about. And that kind of makes it fun to be a part of that. But when you look at something like this product, it looks really generic. And to me, that was a problem. Nobody wants to buy this. Nobody is going to be excited to buy this. They may buy it because they're like, okay, I really need something and I guess I better spend some money on this. But I thought, why isn't there a brand that's really making being prepared cool? So you can be the hero among your friends and you can protect people when they're counting on you. And that's kind of where the idea came from. So we started Uncharted Supply Company. Here's a picture here of our backpack with 72. I don't know how many of you guys have seen this yet, or maybe you watched Shark Tank or went to our website ahead of time. But the first thing we did is we tried to design a cool logo, and we tried to tell a story that would make people interested in our brand. Now, I guess at this point I would ask what the logo looks like to you guys. I can't hear you right now, so I'll tell you. But the idea was that the logo is a Saint Bernard, and if you've ever seen Saint Bernards back in the old days, they'd have these big like casks on their neck full of whiskey. And what happened was the monks, we used to send Saint Bernards out over this Bernard Pass to find travelers who'd been stuck in storms and didn't know where to go. The dogs could find their way. They could smell humans out. They would go out and grab them, get them warm, bring them home, and protect them. And then the dogs would go back and sit by the fire and be ready for the next time. And we just love the idea of an unpretentious animal like that protecting people and being really proud and strong and courageous, but not trying to be a hero, just doing its job. And we thought that was a really nice representation for our company. So we designed the logo and designed the products. It took a long time, but we came up with the 72. And what we like to say is the 72 is the world's first fully integrated 72-hour survival system, designed by experts to be everything you need and nothing you don't. Now, why do we call it the 72? Well, the stat that kept coming up over and over and over in our research is 95% of all emergency situations are resolved in the first 72 hours. What you do in that time can be the difference between life and death. And what that means is everything from September 11th, 2001 to a car going in the ditch, within 72 hours, first responders are there and they're there to help you and they're there to bring you supplies 95% of the time, so almost every time. But let's say you're stuck in a ditch and it's snowing and somebody's not coming for 3 days. Well, if you can't keep warm for 3 days, you may not make it 3 days. Or if it's really hot and you don't have water, I mean, you need to drink water. So what we wanted to do is give people everything they needed to get through the first 3 days in case it took that long for help to arrive. Usually it's a lot faster, but that was the decision we made, is to focus on that fact and design something. So I think historically when people thought about preparedness and emergency stuff, they thought you have to have a bunker and you have to spend thousands of dollars to store things. And don't get me wrong, I think it's great if you have a bunch of food and water in your basement and you're ready to go in case something happens. But for a lot of people living in small apartments or moving a lot, it's not possible. Or what if you're driving in your car all the time and you're not actually home when something happens? Like, what can you have with you that's small and lightweight and it's going to get you through a situation? And that's why we designed this. So talking a little bit about designing our product, the first thing we wanted to do is we wanted to make it look cool. It had to be something people wanted to buy. If you think back to that other image I showed you, I don't want to buy that. It looks junky. So we looked at companies like Apple and Nike and how they photograph their products. And they don't usually put their product sitting on a white background, just the shoe sitting there. They look like it's in motion. They show you details. In this picture, you can see all of our seams are really professionally and there's a high level of quality built into this bag. You can see that it looks waterproof, that everything's done at a high level of touch. And we wanted to make that come across in our photography. We felt like people don't like to buy insurance, but I think people would invest in being the hero and being able to protect people. And if this bag will do that, then cool. So we did that, we designed that. And then on the inside, we do have to take some pictures on white backgrounds, but inside the bag, when you open it up, what we did was we designed what we call the insert, and that's the piece on the left. So everything was organized. If you needed warmth, you can see the warmth pocket in there that has tent, blanket, hat, gloves, and hand warmers. If you needed first aid, the first aid's all in one kit. If you think about it, when something dangerous or an emergency situation happens, adrenaline starts rushing, and you don't make as good of decisions as you would if you were calm and had more time to think through things. So we wanted to make things color-coded. We wanted to make things really easy to find, so you weren't out somewhere dumping a whole backpack of stuff on the floor looking for that one tool. Now you know exactly which pocket to go to, and you can move fast, because sometimes seconds really do count. You'll even see with the bag open, on the very top, it says air, shelter, water, food. A lot of people instantly think, oh man, I need food and water. Well, if you can't breathe, you're not going to last very long. So we tell people, even looking at the forest fires up in California right now, you need to be able to breathe before you need water. You can go a couple days without water, and you can actually go a couple weeks without food. But if you're not going to stay warm and be able to breathe, you're not even going to get to that point. So we try to remind people every step of the way, hey, look at what's important, and let's walk through this. On top of that, this is on the other side of this insert. You can see all of the instructions laid out. So let's say you had a big cut. The first thing you're going to look at is administer first aid. And the first thing under that section is flesh wound. So it tells you which products to use in the kit to do something. You guys out there might have a lot of experience. You might have been in the Boy Scouts. You maybe go hunting with your families. Maybe you go snowmobiling, and you've been through some of these experiences. But what I have learned over and over again is that is getting more and more rare. I grew up on a dairy farm. I've been to Iraq 38 times. I go elk hunting. I go mountain climbing. And through those experiences, people who are experts in this have taught me how to take care of things, or how to start a fire, or how to get warm. But a lot of people never get those experiences. And then all of a sudden they're stuck in a situation and they have no idea where to start. Well, this was designed for those people. It's got all the instructions in there and everything you need. So here's a little video we put together when we launched the brand, just to show you guys kind of a cool version of what the pack can do. I think it should start playing. Maybe, I don't know. There we go. So as you can see there, it's nobody's ever done that with a survival kit before. We're trying to make this fun. We're trying to make it cool, and people really responded to that. Now, to have a company, you have to have more than one product. So we've built some other things. This is what we call the Hideaway Jacket. We haven't really done a whole lot with this jacket yet, but we do sell a lot of them. On the left is what the jacket packs up to, and on the right is what it can turn into. So the one on the left there, that's about the size of a Coke can. And the idea was, I kept hearing about all these people that go for hikes and they would get lost, or they would roll their ankle and they'd be stuck overnight and they would get hypothermia because they were cold. They didn't bring a jacket with them. And people don't bring a jacket because it's heavy, it's bulky, they don't plan on being lost, but nobody plans on being lost. What this jacket does, it's really interesting. It has 10 panels all throughout it. You can stuff full of dry leaves or grass or newspaper or whatever you want, and it becomes very, very warm. So the idea is you throw it in your backpack, you don't even know it's there. If you need it, you pull it out, fill it up, you put it on. you don't want to you don't want to go to a restaurant downtown wearing this. That probably look pretty goofy, but in a life and death situation, it's going to keep you very warm. So what is that? We've got this on the market, and we've got 3 or 4 other products which are coming very soon, which are very exciting. One thing that's been important to us too is giving back. So for each jacket we've sold, we've donated one to our nation's homeless, giving them a fresh jacket, giving them something they can wear, whether it's summer or winter. And we've handed out, I think, about 5,000, 6,000 of those so far. So that's always been an important part of what we're doing. Here's some of the other products we're working on. On the left there that's a really crude version, but we're working on a backpack that actually turns into body armor. I keep thinking about Boston Marathon and Las Vegas now, which has happened. And how do people protect themselves in situations like that? So we're working on solutions like that. And on the right is a really heavy duty shovel that we're building right now. Don't tell anybody, this is secret stuff. We've had some great reviews of our products. And I'm trying to skip through some of this and get to Shark Tank, but going through these slides. So I'm just going to go into Shark Tank a little bit. I think that's what you guys are probably interested in. Derek, how should I start this? Do you want me to talk about how we apply and where to go, or do you want to talk about the experience of being in Shark Tank, or what's the best way to start?
Yeah, I think that would be great, just from the very beginning of your idea. Hey, we should put this on Shark Tank, to the application, to showing up there, what kind of the behind the scenes experience looks like, and then tell us a little bit more about what it was like to actually be there. And then also post, what happens after when the cameras are turned off and the interaction with these people. So
right. Okay. Awesome. So, when I was building this company, I quit my other job at Pear Sports, which I talked about earlier. And I came up with this idea, and it was just me in my apartment working on this, trying to develop products and develop a brand and figure out if we can make it work. And Shark Tank's one of my favorite shows, and it was always on in the background. I think whether it was purposeful or not, the questions these guys ask all the time are really, really good and simple questions that you should ask yourself when building a company. What are your margins? Could other people make this? What are your sales? How fast can you make, can you get inventory? Like all of these things. And I think it's really easy when you're working by yourself to kind of have blind spots and to not think about certain things. Or maybe there's something you haven't solved for and you just kind of ignore it. But having these guys talking in the background all the time, it really made me come face to face with things that we had to figure out. And so we got to a point, our first call with these guys was last January. And I think about a month before that, I said, we're starting to sell, things are going well. Sorry, I should take a step back. We launched the company November 1st last year on Indiegogo. And maybe you guys have heard of Indiegogo or Kickstarter. It's a crowdfunding platform where you can put an idea out there and people can put their money in. And if you actually get the product done, then they pay for it. And if it doesn't turn out, they get their money back. So it's a really great place to test products. We put our products out there and it took off. So we ended up being the highest funded survival product in crowdfunding history. And I think we did about $500,000 in a couple of months. So at that point, I thought, okay, people like this. We've got good sales. We've sold like 70 countries so far. I think we should try to apply to Shark Tank and just see what happens, because we did need some money. We did need some support. And I thought it'd be great to have one of these people on our team, let alone it'd be awesome to get on TV and introduce our product to the whole world. So we had a phone call in January. The guy I presented with right there talking with his hands out, his name is Mike Escamilla. He's a pro BMX rider. He's been in a lot of movies. Paul Blart Mall Cop is one of them. He's a stuntman in Captain America, Guardians of the Galaxy. He's had some TV shows, Strangers in Danger, LA Inc. And he has a TV agent. And so, I think you guys probably see people standing in line in all these cities around the world waiting to apply. And he was able to have his agent get a hold of the casting director, and we were able to get a phone call. So we got on the phone with her, and we talked for about 20 minutes. And she said, okay, sounds good. You guys submit a video. So it wasn't like she said, great, we're going to put you on the show. It's actually a long process. I think we probably went through 7 or 8 different steps to actually get on the show. And it's a lot more involved than you probably could ever imagine. But we got through the first stage, and she said, hey, I want you guys to submit a video. So we went to work, and we built a crazy video. I wish I could show it to you guys. Shark Tank doesn't let us show it to anybody. But I think where a lot of companies just point an iPhone at themselves and talk a little bit, we went to the extreme opposite. We hired a couple cameramen. We had smoke bombs. We had fire. We pretended to break people's arms. And we had a combination of funny and serious and a bunch of different locations and made a video that felt a little bit like a TV show. Now, why did we go through that much work? Well, Shark Tank told us there were over 65,000 applicants for this season, and about 120 applicants actually get in front of the sharks. So if you think there's one casting director that's looking at 60-some thousand people that want to be in the show, how do you set yourself apart? We could have just submitted a really quick video, and that would have been totally acceptable, but it may not have worked. And I just think that's a good lesson in business too. It's like, if you really want to make some noise and you really want to get above the crowd, you have to go above and beyond what's expected of you. And we did that. And I have to give Mike a lot of credit. He's a TV guy, so he understands kind of how to make fun TV. But we had submitted the video. They loved it. They said, okay, you're through the next round. So this was January. It wasn't until May that they said, okay, I think we're going to have you come out to California, start keeping your schedule open and start looking at dates. Between January and May, I think I filled out 150 pages of contracts and submitting all of our what things cost and our margins and our bank records and everything. And they went through a lot of due diligence with us. But we got out to Shark Tank, and I think I came in on a Thursday. I was supposed to pitch on a Sunday. So the first thing you do is you go in front of the producers and you kind of do a fake pitch. We got through that, and they said, great, you'll go on Sunday. So I went home, and then Friday afternoon, they said, actually, we're going to have you go Saturday morning. So they like to keep you on your toes. I thought I had another day to prepare, and suddenly that day was gone, and I was going the next morning. Raced home, kind of got all my things together, went into the studio that day, getting ready to prepare, thinking we were going to go in that morning, and then we sat in a trailer all day waiting. They said, okay, you're going to be next. Oh, no, you're not going to be next. Oh, now it's lunch. Oh, now we'll go after this next guys. And it actually got to the point where we were the last ones of the day, and we didn't know if we were going to get in or not. So we're sitting backstage with microphones on, ready to go, and they're still telling us, you might not go because this other pitch in front of you is taking a long time. And if you don't, we'll probably send you home, and maybe we'll have you come back in November. So they definitely keep you on your toes. And then suddenly they say, oh, okay, you're next. Come on, guys, go. And they put you behind those doors, which you guys have seen 100 times. And the music plays and you walk in. So it was really important to know what our game plan was. It was really important to know how we were going to talk about things, what we wanted to talk about, and just be ready, because there was no way we could plan for, okay, we have another hour, or we're going to be next month, or whatever. It's just, we had to be ready when they said go. So we get into the tank. I don't know how many of you guys have seen this episode. I think on air, we were on for about 6 or 7 minutes, but we were in the Shark Tank for over an hour. You walk in and they immediately start asking you questions. And, on the show, it sounds like Barbara asks a question and everybody else waits, or Mark asks a question and everybody else waits. No way. We stood there and immediately 3 people asked us questions all at the same time. And if you're answering one, it feels like you're ignoring the other 2, and they don't like that. So there's a lot of pressure and a lot of intensity right away. And if you don't know your stuff, they will chew you up and spit you out. So we were in there for over an hour. We were asked a lot of questions. A lot of questions didn't make the air. And I think within 2 or 3 minutes of finishing our pitch, Robert Herjavec made an offer. And he actually offered us twice what we were asking for. Now, if you've watched Shark Tank, if somebody else even offers you what you're asking for, you better take it, or they start thinking you're, in there for other reasons. But if you ask 2 minutes in, we just got there. And I knew that if they're making a TV show, they needed us to talk for a while so they could have things to show in the episode. So it put us in a really tough position right away. And I simply said to Robert, hey, do you mind if I just hear what everybody else has to say? This is a once in a lifetime. Now, if you watch the episode, they make it look like he asked that towards the end. But that was actually right at the beginning. And I spent most of the conversation warning Robert off so he wouldn't, get upset with us or pull his offer. Barbara went out right away. She said, hey, Robert just gave you a great offer. I think he's a better fit for you. I'm going to buy a bunch of these, which, by the way, she hasn't. I think she just said that for TV. But I'm out. So she went out. And then Mark Cuban was probably the one we talked to the most. Mark asked us a lot of questions about what our cost per customer acquisition is, what our margins were. And he really did a deep dive on us more than anybody else did. And what was interesting was he got to a point where he said, you guys are doing such a good job. I don't know where I add value besides putting my money in. And I don't like to just put my money in. So I think what he was saying is when entrepreneurs get in front of him, he likes to see a great idea or an entrepreneur maybe missing some big aspect of their company that Mark could quickly fix and make the company be worth a lot more. But he looked at all of our numbers and everything we were doing, and he just simply said, you guys don't need me. Now, unfortunately, on the show, they cut it to look like Mike maybe wasn't as positive about us, but he was very, very complimentary. On the other side was Lori, and then Rohan Oza. Rohan is one of the guest judges this year. He's done companies like Vitamin Water, Smart Water, Bai, which is like a BAI. It's like a fruit infused water. He's done a bunch of companies like that. His nickname is the brand father in Hollywood. So what he's famous for is matching celebrities with products to be kind of spokesman. He was very, very interesting to me, but he never really asked too many questions where I felt like he was getting close to making an offer. And it was his first time in the tank. I assumed he just kind of was overwhelmed or didn't know how to engage or was kind of waiting, or maybe he just didn't like it. I didn't know, but he didn't say much. He was complimentary, but he didn't say much. And then Lori had asked a lot of questions. She seemed very interested, but I don't know how many times you guys have watched the show. I've watched hundreds of these episodes. Lori is famous for saying, well, I'm going to make you an amazing offer. And then she actually makes you a lower offer. And I had Robert on the line for double we were asking for. And Lori said, hey, I'm going to make you a great offer. And then Robert said, if you listen to her offer, I'm out. And it was a really tough position to be in because I thought Lori was an interesting proposition for us. But I also didn't want to lose Robert, have her offer us less, and kind of look like I didn't have my stuff together on TV. So we had to make the quick decision to go with Robert, and that's what we did. So this is an hour of conversation that came down to this. But Robert invested on the show, and we all shook hands and hugged, and that was kind of the experience. So it was intense, you guys. It's as you can imagine, it's intense in there, but it's intense in different ways. I'll tell you another interesting story. When you walk into the Shark Tank and you stop and you stand there, you can't even say hi right away. You have to wait for 2 minutes. And you wait for 2 minutes while all the cameramen move around you and get different camera angles. So later, when they ask questions and they cut to the entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurs are just sitting there quiet, those moments are probably taken from the beginning when they're just told to stand there quiet. But it gives them something to add drama to the TV show. So it was a very interesting experience. It was a lot of fun. And we came out ahead of things. I don't know, Derek, do you want to answer questions about Shark Tank right now, or should I go into kind of some of the lessons I've learned through all this, or how would you prefer to handle this?
Yeah, that's great. We haven't really asked for any questions yet, but I think that's what's really interesting too. If you could just talk about and then share your story of what it's been like since, maybe even after, right? The show's done, you've given hugs. What does it look like since then? I mean, what has your interaction been like with Robert and your team? And perhaps you can talk a little bit about that and then transition into what you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so it may not be what you've expected since. So the first thing is right away after the show, we start talking to Robert's team. Now, I will tell you, I have not talked to Robert since the show, which was very surprising to me. And actually, we're still negotiating our deal a little bit. Some of this stuff I can't talk about too much because of contracts, but I will say that right away what we learned was from his team was, okay, you may be on air, you may not. So here's an interesting fact. Even if you present to the Sharks, you may not end up on TV. So we go home, we can't talk about it, we can't tell anybody we've even done this. And then we wait a couple more months. And then finally they go, hey guys, so guess what? You're going to be in the season premiere. Congratulations. It's in 3 weeks and you better be ready because you'll get a ton of traffic online. So we had a website. We were selling through a website. We totally threw our website in the garbage and built a new one on a platform called Shopify, because Shopify has built-in capabilities that can scale with how much traffic you're getting. So where we would normally get maybe 200, 300, 400 people to our website a day, we were looking at like 70,000 people per hour hitting our website, which if that hits your website crashes, and then you can't get any sales, and you kind of lost the whole opportunity. So we spent the next, month or two scrambling, getting a new website built, making sure we had inventory. Our bags, just to get a bag in, it takes about 80 to 90 days. So we immediately had to grab every penny out of every couch cushion and empty our bank accounts and order as much inventory as we could based on the predictions Shark Tank was giving us. That said, they reserve the right to not air you at any moment. So we were investing literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in inventory, and it was all on the hope that we would actually end up on the show. We were never promised anything, and it could be taken away at any time. So as you guys can imagine, that's pretty darn scary. We fortunately did end up on the season premiere, and that was October 1st. So we had a few friends over. We didn't want to have any kind of party because we figured we'd be working. We had about 7 or 8 laptops lined up. We had one that was monitoring traffic, one monitoring sales, one monitoring Twitter and what people were saying. And being in Utah, the show first aired on the East Coast. So about an hour before we got to see it, other people were seeing it and starting to talk about it. And keep in mind, I haven't seen the edit. I haven't seen what ours is going to look like or anything. I've seen one picture at this point, and I have no idea what they've made us look like. So tweets start going off and people start retweeting, and all of a sudden, our traffic is going along like this, and it just goes straight up. I don't usually talk about sales figures too much, but I'll tell you guys, we had done about $900,000 in sales since last November before Shark Tank, which is really good. But the night of Shark Tank, we did $100,000 in sales. And the next night we did $100,000 again. And over the next 3 or 4 days, that slowly went down, 60,000, 40, 20. One of the things we did to prepare is we bought a lot of digital advertising. So our logic was Shark Tank is going to give us this huge push, and we wanted to keep that push rolling as hard as we could. So we actually brought on another investor in the time between when we filmed Shark Tank and when Shark Tank aired. And part of that agreement in their investment was that $250,000 of their investment had to go to digital advertising right after Shark Tank. So October, November, December, we're spending $250,000 on Facebook, Instagram, and Google Ads. Now, this is crazy. I have not paid myself a penny yet in 2 years of work. And suddenly I'm being told I have to spend $250,000. I'm like, can we spend 200 and maybe I could pay myself a little? But no. So it's one of those things where it feels like you're playing cards, and every time you win, you have to put all the money back in over and over and over. And every time the stakes get higher, and it's stressful. It's really intense. So we put all that money back in. But here's what's been happening, and here's what's really interesting. I do believe Shark Tank has been a big boost for us, but now that we have that name recognition, keeping ourselves in front of people has paid off big time. We have been spending about $1,500 a day. Now this week it's going to change, but post Shark Tank for the 2 weeks, we're spending $1,500 a day on advertising, and that's been returning between $20,000 and $30,000 in sales every single day. Now, if we can do that forever, I'm going to buy snowmobiles and boats and all sorts of stuff, because that means our company's going to be worth a lot of money. But it's still early. We don't know how this is going to level off eventually. But for 2 weeks now, we've been getting in one day more sales than we were getting in 1 week before Shark Tank. Oh. So it's been quite an effect. And I do credit Shark Tank with a lot of that, but I also credit it with our ad buying team really making sure we stay in front of people. And then, there's been Las Vegas, there's been forest fires in California, there's been hurricanes. When you look at where people are coming from, like right now, our largest purchasing area is the San Francisco area. So there's been a lot of things I think that have added up to that, but it's been amazing.
That is so great. Thanks for sharing some of those details with us. I'm sure, the kids and the families who are on this call are just like, wow, it's so cool. As you break it down for some of our students in Utah who are really K through 12.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about some really amazing things, like finding a mentor, like starting a business. What would you recommend in terms of finding a mentor, finding someone that could help them along this path?
Oof, I think finding a mentor just takes a lot of searching. I can tell you, that for me, there's been times I've done things because the paycheck was good. There's been times I've done things because I was passionate about them. And I will tell you, every time I did something because I was passionate about it, ended up being more successful and probably more profitable than when I just took a paycheck. What I would say is anything you're really excited about and you love doing, you're going to do better and you're going to be more excited about it, and that's going to attract the right people. So advice as far as finding a mentor, that's tough. I mean, there's a lot of places you can start, but I would say the first thing is make sure you're going down a path that you just can't wait to wake up and work on, and you don't want to go to sleep at night because it's so exciting. To me, that's the first step. And then from there, I think the right people show up in your life. I think if you put yourself out there, you go to conventions, you go to trade shows, you go to meetings, you talk to people. If people see somebody young that's really excited about something, they want to help you. And you can leverage that, and you can learn a lot at a young age from some pretty amazing people.
Yeah, that's awesome. I loved how at the beginning you talked about exploring a whole bunch of different options and activities to find out something that really would help guide you and hone you into something that you're really excited about. When you were where you were this age, if you can rewind back to, being this age and having all these really cool ideas, were there some early businesses that you started even when you were in middle school and high school?
Well, middle school and high school, I grew up on a dairy farm. So my job was at the farm. I would get up at 4:30 in the morning before school. And a lot of times I would come home and the bus would drop me off at the end of the driveway, and my dad would come out and just say, "Hey, put your books down and go out to the field and take over for Jeff," because Jeff has to go home and it's dinner time for him. So I worked really long hours on the farm. That did teach you some of those survival skills I talked about earlier, but more than that, it taught me the value of hard work. My business partner, Eric, who is kind of the only other guy working day to day on Uncharted with me, he and I both come from similar backgrounds. And I do think when companies are at that, are they going to make it or not type thing, there's a lot of things that go into if a company is successful or not. But I think above all else, hard work really pays off. So for me, that was the thing I learned through middle school and high school. Now, when I got to college, I have 3 degrees, but one of them was a journalism marketing degree. And I had classes like journalism, and I had classes like web development. And what I would do is I would take our projects, and I would, for one project for a class, we had to build a website. So instead of just building a silly website, I went to our local gym back where I grew up and saw if they wanted a website, and they paid me $1,000 to build them a website. So I had a class project. It turned out really well, and I made some money. All through college, I worked in tech jobs. I took a summer course to understand how to program computers and how to fix them. And then I spent a couple of years selling computers and doing troubleshooting. And that led to a job with the University of Wisconsin system where I worked with the chancellor and people like that doing similar type stuff, web development stuff. I don't use those specific skills day to day now, but they were great experiences that helped shape who I am today. So, I think looking back, did I know what I wanted to be growing up? Not at all. But I knew I didn't want to be an accountant. I knew I didn't want to be a doctor. I mean, there were certain things where I had interest, and there were certain things that I didn't. And, I kind of look at it like a pie. It's like if a pie is round and accounting is down here and marketing's up here, maybe over in here somewhere. We can start eliminating pieces of that pie, and eventually your path is going to get narrow and you're going to know exactly what you want to do. But it's okay to float around a little bit through there and try to figure out, your true north and what you're really going to be good at.
That's awesome. That is great advice. I think one more thing, and then we'll open it up to some questions from those who have joined. I had the great privilege of talking with you and meeting with you in person last week. And was really impressed when I was talking about, well, tell me about how you leverage technology, and you work remote for a lot of cases, and your product is being fulfilled somewhere else, and you're doing marketing. Tell me about how all of that works and how you manage that.
I think it's important when you're building a business to take a big step back and just look at the way our society is going. And what I mean by that is Amazon more and more is becoming the way people buy things. I mean, Amazon's to the point now where if you say, Alexa, I need toilet paper shows up at your door 3 days later. Now, not everybody's using that technology, but that's really what's happening. And, that's one of the things I learned a lot when I was in Los Angeles. Because you're in such a highly populated area, I could go on my phone and order Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and somebody would bring it to my door an hour later. So what's happening is people demand things quickly. They want to find the products they're looking for fast. They're using their phones a lot. They expect high levels of customer service. They expect things to show up quickly. And more people are just ordering online. We get asked all the time, well, are you guys going to start a store? Or do you want to get into Target? Or do you want to get into Shields or something like that? And the answer is yes, of course we do. But when you're starting out and you literally have 2 people on the team, it's so much easier to do this online. Now, our first 1,000 units we built, I built them in my apartment. I wish I had the pictures on hand here to show you guys. But for 4 weeks, me and 4 or 5 of my friends just built 72s and shipped them all over the world. And it was way too much work, and it bogged us down. We weren't able to continue to market. We weren't able to be efficient with what we were good at. We were just assembly line workers for 3 weeks. So the next time we got going on this, we found a group in Minneapolis that this is what they do. They assemble products, and they can do it really fast. And they hire disabled people actually and provide them with jobs. So as an example, somebody that's blind may not have very many options when it comes to work. But what they can do is they can take something from this pile, open it up, remove something, and set it in this pile. And there was just a lot of that in building this. So this gives us an opportunity to provide jobs for people and give them work. And then at the same time, it allows us to do what we do better, which is marketing and building the brand and continue thinking about new products. So it's been a learning experience, but for us, we knew we wanted to build a company that lived online first. And online, a website isn't even good enough. It has to work. 70% of all the people that come to our website are coming to the website through their smartphone. So when you think about that, most people build a website and look at it on their computer and go, oh yeah, it looks great. And they never consider if the experience is as good or better on their phone. But if 70% of your people are looking at it on the phone, that should be the most important thing for you. Now we have it set up. So if you go to unchartedsupplyco.com and you go on there and you see the 72, you can click Apple Pay and put your thumb over the thing and it purchases in like 5 seconds. That's where the world's going. And the more clicks people have to go, the more likely you are to lose them. So that's been a huge focus for us. It's something that I think you can only really learn when you really dive into it and you've got money on the line.
Yeah.
And that's where we've been going with that.
No, that's awesome. Well, I think, again, appreciate your time so much, Christian. What you've shared with us has been extraordinary, and to share details around, your idea for creating the product, to launching a successful crowdfunding campaign, which is awesome, then going on to Shark Tank, and congratulations on your success. What we'd like to do now is open it up to questions, and you can type the questions down in the chat feature and ask away, and then we'll ask Christian if there's something that you'd like to know.
So where do I see the chat section?
So as they come in, what I'll do is
You can read them for me?
I'll just read them directly for you.
Okay.
But I love how you're using technology and to really automate a lot of your processes. And it was great to meet Eric as well and find out a little bit more about his background. How do you, as we're waiting for questions to come in, what is some great advice for those that are looking to add to their team members and find the right team to build around them? Any advice that you'd give there?
Yeah, well, 2 things. One, back to just the using technology thing. As you said, when you came to visit me, I was just in a coffee shop on my laptop. The world's changing, right? It's amazing how much power you can have at your fingertips. And I I've never been good at having a 9 to 5 job and having to go into a room and stare at a screen and work. I get my best ideas when I'm out running or skiing. And I knew that I would be most productive if I could be in an environment that was flexible. So it takes some work to get to that point, but I just want everybody to know, like, the end goal doesn't have to mean you're in a corner office somewhere. I think the most successful people are the ones that can go down a ski run, get back onto the gondola, answer 4 emails on their phone, and go for another ski run. I mean, that's my goal personally, right? Like, if we can have the system rolling, you don't have to be anywhere in particular anymore to make things happen. Now, back to your point about hiring people. What I've always told people is I would rather be a member of SEAL Team 6 than be the general of an army. I think sometimes people think success looks like a room full of people all working. But that scares me personally. I started this business because I like marketing and creating products. But if you have 100 people working for you, most of your time is going to be managing people.
Yeah.
So what I've always tried to do is find people that I've known for a long time that I think are exceptionally good at what they do. And beyond that are I don't know how to say this except like very even.
Yeah.
Working as an entrepreneur and building a company, there's going to be super high highs, and there's going to be super low lows. And Eric and I have known each other since college. I mean, there are days where we get grumpy with each other. We text each other every single day. But at the end of the day, I know that this guy's going to come down tomorrow and reset and be happy. And I try to have the same promise to him. So I think it's important to find people that you trust are going to work as hard as they can, and they're going to do their thing as best they can. And they're not going to get emotional on you, and they're not going to, get upset about the little things, because there's a lot of stress that comes your way in these situations. And the temperament is also really important. Now, with Eric as an example, Eric has a background in finance. Now, I am not a good money guy. I don't look at my bank account very often. I'm just not a numbers guy. I'm more of a big idea guy. So I knew when I started this company, you have to have solid financials. Otherwise, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. And that's something Eric did very well. So I think you have to also be honest about what your strengths are and where the holes are, and find somebody that can complement what you're doing. You don't want 2 people to think the same, because that's going to be a lot of tension. But if you have an idea guy and a finance guy, you can kind of run next to each other and have the same goal and let each other do what they're best at. That's
awesome. I think that's great advice. Will you stop screen sharing? Then people can see your face a little bit bigger as you're answering some of these questions. We've had some great questions come in. I think one of the questions they asked is the name of the crowdfunding base that you used was Indiegogo,
yes.
Correct? Which is awesome. And another question that came through was, how did you determine how to expand your products? We like the jacket idea. What are some of the other products that you're looking at adding kind of beyond that jacket and some of the other things?
Yeah, so I think with everything, an example I could give is like GoPro cameras. When GoPro started, it was actually a 35 millimeter camera with film that you'd put in a waterproof housing. And like, he would hold it on his arm and crank it and push the button. I mean, if they stopped evolving there, that company would have been dead 100 years ago. Yeah. So even though the 72 is doing great right now and people love it, you have to understand that you have to keep making it better, or somebody's going to leapfrog you and pass you up. So for us, we've been thinking about how to make the 72 better, whether it's better quality products inside, better organization, better hip straps that fit more body types. And that's a path we've been going down. In addition, what's been really interesting is, since we've launched this, people ask a lot of questions. They send you feedback. We've done surveys. And what's really come to light is the number one question we get is, well, hey, I have a family of 3 or 4 people. Do I need to buy 3 or 4 72s? Or is there a way I can make one work for everybody? Now, obviously, it'd be great to sell 3 or 4 every time, but some people don't have that much money, or they don't want to spend that much. So one of the things we're looking at now is we have the 72, which is designed for one person. We have this thing called an expansion pack coming out in a couple of months, which actually we already have the attachment points built on the bottom of the 72, and this kit will bolt on. And these expansion packs, there's going to be a couple of them. One would be so the 72 is good for 2 people. One would be if you have a pet. One would be if you have a baby, if you're in cold weather. So it makes it more flexible for people. And then we're building a larger form factor one that will fit 3 or 4 people's stuff in a backpack. Personally, I thought the most important thing would be lightweight. So everybody had something they could throw it on and they can move. But when the market keeps asking the same question over and over and over, you have to pay attention to that. So that's kind of the path we're going down. We have some other interesting ideas out there that are just our own ideas based on what we've seen and experienced. But I think listening to your customers, I think looking to what people are buying, looking at the response you're getting, see what else is in the market and what's selling is really good for helping determine which way you go.
Awesome. We may have some people that are interested in buying, so I wonder if you do a discount code or something like that for our My Tech High families who are listening.
Sure. I can put something together. I will tell you guys, we're about 3 or 4 days from being sold out. And then we're going to get some more in December. Those will probably be sold out ahead of time too. So we're in a bit of a crunch right now. I'll give you a promo code where you can offer that up. I'll send that over to you right after this.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Just telling people order fast and you'll get it quickly. Otherwise, you may be on a little bit of a wait list, which is unfortunate for us. But
no, it's good for you. Good for you. That's awesome. And just a couple of other questions that we've had that have come in. What's your, as you think about all the things that you do, obviously you're doing things with Eric and you have a whole team. If you were to think about what's your favorite thing about what you do?
Oh man. I think my favorite thing is seeing people respond in a positive way to something I've created. I mean, it's, you build this, and like when we launched our Indiegogo campaign, you turn the campaign on, you've got your PR team working, and it's like, is anybody going to buy this? Yeah. And then your mom buys one and your grandma buys one, and it's like, okay, well, thanks guys. But when people from Syria or Australia are buying these things and calling you and saying, oh my gosh, thank you for creating this. It's what I needed. That's an amazing feeling that I still get excited about every time. Beyond that, I really enjoy creating content. One of our big plans moving forward is to create a lot of educational content on how to work through emergency situations. It's always a fun thing for us, and developing new products obviously is exciting. When you sketch something out and you work with your team and then you send it off to a factory and a sample comes back and it's close, but it's not quite right. And then you get it right. The creative aspect is what's really fun for me.
That is awesome. Well, there was one that made me smile. Do you like your job? Obviously, I think we get that passion just coming through with everything that you shared. There's another question that came through. How did you think about the name? What a wonderful story. Really like that idea. And then you could see the logo of the mountain dog in that, and love the overall story. I think we're wrapping up on the hour, but is there anything else, Christian, that you'd like to share with our families and students who may be listening?
I think I would just say, especially if you're young, don't be afraid to go for it. You've got your whole life to have a desk job and to, I don't want to make this sound super negative, but, I heard a quote once where it's like, you can either build your own dream or you can build somebody else's for them. And entrepreneurship is not for everybody. It can be really stressful. It can be very hard. It can be very scary. But I will tell you, there's nothing more rewarding from a business aspect either. So, maybe you don't have the idea today, but it's something you want to do. Keep thinking about it. Uncharted took me a couple of years. I knew I wanted to do something in this space and I wanted to create my own product and a brand. It took me a long time to actually go, oh, that's what I want to do. So if you don't come up with something this week, don't get discouraged. Just keep thinking about it. And once you get an idea that you really feel confident about, talk to some people. And I would say take their advice, but also trust your gut. If you really believe it's something that's going to go, put some time into it and go for it. Because the worst that's going to happen is it falls apart and then you can try something else or do it again. But I've read a lot of books from entrepreneurs, from Phil Knight, who started Nike, from Richard Branson, from guys like this. And not a single one of them didn't have a moment where they were pretty sure it was all going to fall apart. So in my mind, it's like, if you get to that point where it feels like it's falling apart, that's just another step in the journey, and keep going because it's going to get better. So just go for it. That'd be my advice.
Great advice. And where can people find your website? Give us your website if you would.
Yeah, it's unchartedsupplyco.com. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, just at Uncharted Supply. It's Uncharted, not Uncharted. Sometimes people make that mistake. But or me at Christian Schauf is my Instagram. You can probably find everything there as well. My name's up in the corner. So yeah, check us out. Say hi. If you have any questions, feel free to send them over. It's a small team. I'm still doing all the customer service every day. So if you have a question on the product, it's coming to me no matter what.
That is awesome. Well, Christian, and for all of those who joined, thanks so much. We appreciate your time, appreciate your wonderful insight and the lessons that you shared with us. Thank you again on behalf of Matt and myself and the MyTech High team and all of the MyTech High families who have joined us today. We genuinely appreciate you and your time.
Thanks, Christian.
Thanks, guys.